It's a mini lecture on John Calvin and the Reformation in Geneva. One thing you need to know about John Calvin is that he was actually French, he wasn't Swiss. Through a variety of circumstances, he ended up in Geneva, and he was asked to be pastor of their city, kind of like Zwingli in Zurich. Well, a number of things took place. You can read these in the notes, and Calvin ended up leaving Geneva, and he was asked to come back a few years later. When he was asked to come back, he said, "Okay, I will come back, and I will be your, in some sense, theological leader, your pastor of your city." But here's what he says in his acceptance letter of return. He says this: "If you desire to have me for your pastor, correct the disorder of your lives. If you have with sincerity recalled me from exile, banish the crimes and debaucheries which prevail among you. I consider the principal enemies of the gospel not to be the Pope in Rome, nor heretics, nor seducers, nor tyrants, but bad Christians. Either command me to abandon a second time your town of Geneva and let me go, and soften the bitterness of my afflictions in a new exile, or let the severity of the laws reign in the church. Reestablish the pure discipline." So, this is John Calvin, a man that says the church must be pure. From his teaching, we find a group later known as the Puritans, because in order to live your life as God intended it to be, you needed to have a pure life. And this is Calvin's. This comes from Calvin's teaching. One of the ways in which you make sure that your city is pure is you have to have a court system that's held within the church to decide whether or not someone is pure and what punishments needed to take place. For Calvin, this was called the consistory, and it consisted of a number of pastors in Geneva. If someone was accused of committing adultery, they would be brought before the consistory, not before the state courts. And in the consistory would then decide what the punishment might be and how one might be forgiven of their sins and become pure once again. One other key thing with John Calvin is, unlike Luther and unlike Zwingli and unlike later we'll find out about John Wesley, John Calvin actually did manage to sit down and write down what we now call a systematic theology. He put together an ordered way of talking about God, and that became known as the Institutes of the Christian Religion. The Institutes of the Christian Religion is an ordered account of how John Calvin understood the nature of God, creation, humanity, salvation, sin, the church. All of the things that we talk about when we talk about God has been put together in what's called the Institutes of the Christian Religion. That's John Calvin. A couple of things about him and the Reformation that took place in Geneva in Switzerland.